Starting off this countdown, we have the aliens. Story goes that a young man found a USB stick in an abandoned parking lot. He did what I warned you all not to do and plugged it into his computer. And what did he find? Well, the USB stick had tons of files on it. Some were password protected and others weren't. In one folder, there were several images and videos of what seemed to be planets and outer space, and even aliens. Yep. Some of the videos you could see a blurry UFO flying across the sky. On top of that, the USB itself had a weird symbol carved into it. One of his friends analyzed the files and said that it contained old Voyager satellite recordings that were never supposed to be seen by the public. Now what's creepy is several weeks after he posted his story on Reddit, his whole account got shut down. Poor dude, no one knows what happened to him. Maybe the government came after him for revealing the truth about aliens. In our 9th spot, we have the library book. This next individual was going about his day looking at books in the library when he came across a book that had a hole cut out in the pages and a USB stored within it. He decided to check out the book and take the USB home with him. However, when he tried to open the USB, it was password protected, so he was never able to get into it. The next day, he returned it back to the shelf where he found it. But he still wonders what's on it. Honestly, now I'm pretty curious too. This sounds like something straight out of a movie. But it also seems like the USB was put there as like a drop-off location. Maybe it contained secret classified information. But we'll probably never know. Moving on to number 8, we have the therapist. This individual claims that he found a USB that contained a therapist's detailed notes on one of their patients. He wrote about how the patient had profound auditory hallucinations and visual delusions. Apparently, the patient felt like he was being followed by a presence. Now, of course, the therapist doesn't believe in ghosts, so he just diagnosed the patient with schizophrenia and left it at that. But as you continue to read their interactions, you can tell that the patient was legit being haunted by something. Every time the therapist saw his client, the more distraught he was getting. Their last entry states that the client began to have glassy looking red eyes. So this dude was clearly getting possessed here, and the therapist was ignoring it all and letting it happen. If he needed to get an exorcism done, it's the therapist's fault. Moving on to number 7, we have the loose floorboards. This next story surrounds a newlywed couple that moved into a small old cottage style home. Shortly after moving in, they decided to replace the floorboards in the kitchen since they were pretty squeaky. But upon lifting the floorboards, they found a bunch of mysterious items. There were children's toys, a large sum of cash, and a metal box containing a USB. I mean, that's a pretty odd collection of things to hide under the boards. After looking at the USB, they discovered the history of their house. Apparently, it was once owned by a young girl who ran away after becoming pregnant. She then lived in the house to hide her pregnancy from her family. On the USB was pictures of her and her baby, as well as copies of emails she would send to her friends and family. It's a pretty sad story, and who knows what happened to her now. In our 6th spot, we have the hacking. So, like I mentioned before, USBs are a great tactic for hackers, as proven by this next story. So, a naive man picked up a USB that he found on a park bench and brought it home with him. But when he plugged it into his computer, he was instantly hacked and his whole laptop crashed. The hackers stole all of his private online information. He had his credit cards hacked and other valuable information stolen. So don't be a nosy Nathan and fall for this scheme. Apparently hackers do this near businesses that they want to penetrate with hopes that a worker there will find the USB and plug it into their company's computer. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the lost USB. This next user discovered a USB out in the middle of the woods. 2 big red flags there: creepy lost USB and the middle of the woods. Well, on the USB was a bunch of weird video files. The videos were short 15-minute clips of random rooms of a house in the dark. To make things worse, the USB itself had "scary monsters" written on it. Hold on a second. So you're telling me that they found an old USB in the middle of the woods that was labeled "scary monsters" on it, and they still thought it was a good idea to bring it home and see what's on it? What What's wrong with people? Coming in at number 4, we have the sad face man. This next individual found a USB in an old briefcase that he bought from a second-hand store. On the USB was a bunch of copies of old emails. The emails were pretty weird, talking about someone named the sad face man. The sad face man was always written in all caps and bolded letters. They were saying things like, "We have to do as the sad face man says," or "I think I angered the sad face man." All of the emails were pretty strange and didn't really make a lot of sense. But obviously there's a darker meaning to this. It's believed that these emails contain some sort of secret message. And obviously the sad face man is code for something. But the question is what? Making our way down the list at number 3, we have the dark web. I swear, some people are just out there asking for it. So this next individual thought it would be a good idea to not only go on the dark web, but to also purchase a mysterious USB from the dark web. What could go wrong, right? Don't get me started with that. After receiving the USB in the mail, they plugged it into their laptop. Now, I assumed that it would have immediately caused the laptop to explode or something like that, but it didn't. Instead, the USB contained 5 random videos. The videos had a pure black screen, and all you could hear was a person screaming. Each video was titled as a different person's name and had different voices screaming in pain. So it's thought that he literally bought audio of different people getting tortured. In our second spot, we have the diary. This next story was posted on Reddit by the user BreakerMW. 5 years ago, he found a USB in a parking lot adjacent from his apartment building. On the USB were countless diary entries dating from August 2nd, 2013 to December 20th, 2014. Everything was normal about the entries until October 26th. On October 26, 2014, the person wrote, "He woke up earlier than usual today. Probably 5 a.m. I think. Seems he wants to get an early start on the day. Hit the gym and all that. I watched him get dressed and head out. He came back by 6:15 a.m., a short workout, but I guess he has lots of work to do. While he was out, I felt so lonely." In other entries, the person wrote things like, "Guess he's tired. He did wake up a lot in the night. I considered leaving from under his bed to say hello, maybe help him sleep." The entries revealed that this person had been living in his apartment for over a month, spying on him without him knowing. And in our number 1 spot, we have the decoded message. A mysterious video was uploaded to YouTube claiming that it was a video found on a USB stick. The video was very strange. It consisted of a bunch of random outdoor shots, like of trees, a building, and a spider, but in the background, all you hear is a mysterious sequence of numbers.
20 9 10.
People then jumped to the conclusion that the video was a cipher that needed to be decrypted. They think that the video is riddled with clues. Other people noticed that if you slow down the video, then you can see a scary clown twice. Once at the end, standing at the end of a dark hallway holding a knife, and the other time you can catch a glimpse of the clown's gown. This has led people to believe that the video is linked to an unsolved murder that occurred in Sydney, Nova Scotia. The video may contain the longitude and latitude coordinates of where the murder victim is buried, but no one has yet solved this creepy mystery. Starting off this countdown, we have the urban explorer. So the person that posted this story claims that they are a frequent urban explorer. They love to explore abandoned houses, hospitals, etc. Well, one time while exploring an abandoned house, they came across a USB in a desk drawer. He took it with hopes to learn more about the people that lived in the house. But when he plugged it in, the USB was just filled with pictures of tombstones and obituaries. What's odd is that all the people on the USB died under mysterious circumstances at different times. So, I don't know what's going on with this one. Seems like an odd thing to keep as a memento. In our 9th spot, we have the blackmail. This next USB must have been owned by A from Pretty Little Liars, because it contained folders of information on a bunch of individuals. In one folder was evidence that a man was cheating on his wife. In another folder on a different individual, it was her police records stating that she had a DUI. The list went on and on. It seems like the owner was digging up dirt on these people to then use it as blackmail. Either that or the owner was a PI. Making our way down the list, number 8, we have the USB game. So this next individual found not just one, not just two, but multiple USBs. The thing is, he doesn't find the USBs. The USBs find him. It all started when a USB mysteriously appeared in his car's glove box. He thought maybe one of his friends had put it in there, so he plugged it into his computer, but nothing was on it. Weeks went by, and next thing you know, he found a USB at the bottom of a box at his work. Then he found one plugged into his computer at school. Someone was planting these USBs purposely for him to find. But the question is, why? And how much money did they waste doing this? In our 7th spot, we have the numbered flash drives. Last year, a bunch of people were finding flash drives scattered all throughout Las Vegas. It started off with one Reddit user posting a picture of a USB that he found. On the front, it had some weird symbols, while on the back, it had the number 11 written on it in Sharpie, along with the message, "Plug me in," written on it. Don't listen to that message, I would not plug it in. Then another Reddit user a couple weeks later posted saying he found a similar USB as well, but his had the number 17 on it. When he plugged it in, he found a creepy video of a doll on it. Then another person came forward saying that they found a similar USB, but this time it had the number 23 on it. On it was a similar disturbing video of a doll. This remained a mystery for quite some time. People believed that more numbered USBs were going to be found. But this mystery has now been solved. A Reddit user ended up coming forward saying that he planted these USBs all over Las Vegas as part of a marketing campaign for his music. And he's still offering a prize if someone is able to crack his cryptic message. No one has been able to solve it yet though, so it looks like a job for me. Moving on to number 6, we have the gift. Posted on Reddit by the user Thomas Evans 097, they claim that someone placed a USB in their mailbox. When he went to check for mail, he found a USB in a plastic bag with a note saying, "To you," in his mailbox. Whoever wrote this message has some pretty creepy handwriting as well. Now, I know it's a really bad idea to see what's on it, but I would be way too curious not to. Maybe I just go to the library and plug it in there, or use somebody else's computer. Now, one user actually responded to the post saying that they think the USB probably has an EXE on it, which can be used to hack a PC. But sadly, that's all this user shared with us. We don't know if he ever plugged it in, or if he figured out who sent it. And why. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the detective. Now I know I've mentioned this before, but I just really want to solve a mystery. It's probably because I grew up idolizing Nancy Drew. There's just so many things in this world that need to be solved. For example, what really happened to Amelia Earhart? Who is DB Cooper? And who was Jack the Ripper? Now I mention this because on a USB that someone found, there were a bunch of files all on Jack the Ripper, as if the owner was trying to figure out who they were. The USB contained scans of newspaper clippings, police reports, and tons of other information about the killer. This person was dedicated to solving the case. Either that or the USB belonged to Jack the Ripper himself. One of the things that was fascinating was evidence on the USB that Jack the Ripper might have been female, aka Jill the Ripper. And that's why after all these years the case still remains unsolved, because they were focusing on a male killer, not female. Coming in at number 4, we have the Anunnaki. This next person shared a story in which they found a USB in the middle of an alleyway. That's a red flag right there. Anyway, he still decided to pick it up and see what's on it. And boy was it pretty creepy what he found. So the USB contained tons of files on the Anunnaki. The owner of the USB believes that the Anunnaki will return to Earth in the year 2022. And for those of you who don't know, the Anunnaki dates back to ancient Sumerian times. They were said to be a group of deities that controlled the Sumerians. Some believe that they are made up beings, kind of like gods in Greek mythology, whereas others believe that they are real, and that they came to Earth from another planet and that they are aliens who posed as gods. So the USB was filled with a bunch of theories on the Anunnaki, with a bunch of weird diagrams and cryptic messages. One thing that's for sure, the USB's owner believes in them and is convinced that they will return back to Earth to enslave humans. In our third spot, we have the Hitman. This next person found a USB that may in fact belong to a hitman. At least that's what I think. So on the USB was a list of names. Some of the names were crossed off. Others had question marks beside their names. I mean, it could be a completely innocent list, like the USB belonged to a teacher who was keeping track of which students submitted their assignments already, I don't know. Or it really could be a list of people that the hitman has killed and is going to kill. The latter makes for a better story though. Moving on to number 2, we have the clowns. So I just learned that Americans are more afraid of clowns than they are of climate change. That right there says a lot. Clowns are freaking terrifying. I don't think I've ever met a person that's like, oh my god, I just love clowns, you see their little red nose, it's so cute. No. Though I'm pretty sure some people do. Like this next USB's owner. So a man found a USB at the side of the street, and when he plugged it in, he found countless photos of clowns. Yep, big clowns, small clowns, tall clowns, you name it, the USB was just filled with clown photos. That must have been a terrifying find. Now, I have so many questions for the USB's owner. Question 1, why? Question 2, why? Question 3, why? And in our number 1 spot, we have the stalker. So this next woman was out on the beach relaxing when she discovered a USB poking out of the sand. When she plugged the sandy USB into her computer, she found tons of photos of a woman named Janet. Now at first she thought it was just cute photos that her husband took of her. The photos were always labeled with her name and then what she was doing. So for example, there was a photo of the woman on a hiking trail and the photo was named Janet Hiking. Another photo showed Janet working out and it was named Janet at the gym. But when she dived deeper into the USB, she figured out that the guy taking the photos of Janet was not her husband, but instead her creepy stalker. So he was going around following her and snapping photos of her without her knowing. To make things worse, there was also a document on there titled Janet's activity log. It said things like 7 p.m. got home from work, 10 p.m. went to bed. So this guy was stalking Janet's every move for months. Pretty creepy. I just hope that Janet's okay.
Starting us off at number 10 is Barbie.av. So back in 2009, a man went to a party in quite a big industrial neighborhood and woke up the next day to the sound of something being thrown into the dumpster. He goes out and finds a computer tower in the trash that he decides to restore, and here's where things get screwed up. Now while looking through the hard drive, he found a video labeled Barbie.av, which turned out to be a woman being interviewed. The static in the video was too much to hear anything she was actually saying. The woman seemed to be getting verbally abused, and the word skin is all the person could lip read from the clip. 40 minutes into the clip, the man was convinced this woman had been horribly hurt because the end shot of the video was some abandoned home near a railroad track a few miles away. So the man went to investigate but found no dead body or remains, but was certain something was definitely covered up. And honestly, people apparently leave evidence of murder on their computers quite a bit. Like sick people like having sick evidence of their disgusting murders as their trophies or whatever, or something they can watch that'll help them relive the event on their laptop. I don't really know. It's sick people everywhere. Coming in at number 9, we have tongues. So this story is from Maddie Stone, who said back in 2015 she had her iMac in her bedroom and would watch things on it while conveniently being in bed. That sounds like such a good setup, Maddie. I wish I had that. I wish I had that. Either way, one night while she was asleep, she was shocked awake by this bizarre sound. She said it sounded like a bunch of garbled voices, like someone had put a bunch of English words into a meat grinder. It was repulsive and terrifying. The sounds lasted 10 seconds, and in those 10 seconds, Maddie legit thought she was surrounded by ghosts and demons in her bedroom and did not move out of sheer fear. She never got out of bed, but till this day also has no idea why her computer started randomly speaking in tongues all of a sudden. She had no virus, nothing was left on that could have started playing accidentally, so what the hell happened? At number 8 is the display. This was shared by user 10-digit code, who said he has had many gaming PCs in the past and he would always keep them running and reboot them every few days. With his current PC, however, he didn't do that because it would be too loud when it was on, so he just let the display turn off automatically as it usually does. However, last year he noticed the display started randomly turning on by itself, like he'd walk into the room and it would just turn on, and his wife even asked him about it, so clearly it was evident enough that she noticed it too. Weeks passed and it kept happening, and so he decided to just turn off his monitor, and that worked for a while, except for days he'd obviously forget to do it. About a month or two later, he was looking through his OS hard drive that could store a full terabyte on it, which is a shit ton, you guys. The thing was 30% full or lower most of the time, but when he looked at it that day, it was 89% full. Like, how the hell do you use that much of a terabyte hard drive? Like, that's insane, that is a lot. He started looking through the folders thinking someone had maybe been downloading stuff onto it, or maybe it was a virus, but he found nothing. Turns out his webcam started recording anytime anyone moved in front of it, so the drive was full of recordings of the couple for the past month and a half, which is just insane. How does a computer turn on by itself and then start recording stuff by itself? Who? Where? Who said this was okay? It's not. It's not okay. Nothing about this is okay. Filling our number 7 slot is the crucifix. So this one was shared by Jack London's Liver, who said he was on a Mac back in 95 or 96 and he was playing a marathon at night. He was in the middle of one of the dark spaceship levels when he started hearing some unintelligible whispers. There were laughs and giggles, and honestly he thought it was coming from the game, but he could hear it even after he had paused the game. This is the point where you run and never look back, Jack. Like, what are you still doing staying there? Sitting there playing the game, what are you doing? He ended up shutting down the computer out of fear, and remember the previous tenants had hung up a crucifix that he had taken down, and as you can imagine, Jack realized he had made a grave mistake and was really missing that crucifix right about then. He lived in the place for a few more years, and one day his neighbor asked him what was going on at his place the night before. He had no idea what she was on about, and she said his door was slamming on and off all bloody night. Plot twist, Jack hadn't even heard a single sound the night before, so his house was haunted by something, and by extension, so was his computer. Brilliant. Hope you moved house, Jack. I would. Now at number 6 is wrong. This one was shared by user Salami Hawk, who said back in the early 90s he was one of the first of his friends to get a gaming computer. And back then that just basically meant a computer with a sound card. Oh, how we've evolved. Very much evolution, it's a good thing. Either way, the computer included a game that was sort of like an early AI digital psychologist called Dr. Sabatso, which is kind of cute actually. The doctor sounded super robotic, and the user would just ask him stuff so he would make fun of his voice more than anything. But one day he was dealing with a lot of computer problems and lags and errors, and he just couldn't figure out why. Windows 3.1 kept crashing, lol 3.1, and so he opened up the doctor, and all it kept replying was something is wrong here. No matter what the user said or asked, it would just keep replying with something is wrong here. The user uninstalled and then reinstalled Windows a bunch of times, yet his answer didn't change. Sounds like a you problem, mate. I'm not dealing with that. Bye-bye. Coming in at number 5 is the helping hand. So this one's from user MWhite66, who said back in the 90s he was booting up his Windows PC and there was a new file smack dab in the middle of his desktop that he hadn't seen before. He didn't put it there, it had no label, and honestly he just assumed it was a glitch. He opened it and turns out the file was left there by some hacker who wrote down all the things wrong with the user's security setup. And clearly there were a lot of things wrong with it since the hacker was able to breach him quite easily. So I can't tell if this was like a helping hand or like a hi, I hacked you and could have posted your nudes on MySpace, but I didn't. So I mean, it's one or the other really. The good old days of MySpace. At number 4 is Us. So this one is just bloody weird and I don't know how to feel about it. It was shared by someone called Liam back in 2015 and he said that at that time he had a Windows computer. Now for some reason his laptop had been acting up recently and he went to update his system and install Windows 8, and when it finally finished it said view basic information about our computer. Not your computer, our computer. Like this comp has a mind of its own, like it's claiming itself. It's its own independent hardware that clearly doesn't need no primary user. There you go. I was gonna break into a song there and I'm not going to. Filling our number 3 slot is 6. This one was shared by Moonshadow Katie, who said that nearly 10 years ago she was playing Earthbound on her PC and that was something she did quite often. She had gotten to a part of the game where she was in a town influenced by the cult Happy Happyists. Very original. She was fighting the boss Mr. Carpenter, and as she was fighting him the game started having a few graphical glitches. A few sprites from the game just started randomly popping up, but she assumed they would go away after a while. After defeating Mr. Carpenter, the glitches actually started getting worse. Every time she pressed a button, a random symbol would just appear. The next fight ends, but the victory music doesn't stop playing. She starts pressing buttons, and every time she does, the number 6 appears on screen. The more she presses, the more 6 keeps showing up, and it's like, why 6 of all numbers? Like, is the devil taking over the computer? Is the final boss of the game Satan, and is the game life, not Earthbound? This is not what she signed up for. This is not what I signed up for either. She ended up just turning the game off because she started getting creeped out, and then later deleted and re-downloaded the game, and it was all well and good. So I guess all is well that ends well. There is no Satan at the end of the day. I mean, questionable. Now at number 2 is The Picture. This one's from Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld, not her real name by the way, who shared that this happened sometime in the mid-90s. They had just gone online and had just discovered the magic of accessible digital porn. They were saving everything they could find until they found a picture of a young Asian girl dead, flayed on top of an autopsy table. They saved it anyway for some reason, but the next day they realized, okay, I really don't need this image on my computer, so they went to delete it. Thank you for coming to your senses. Just as they were about to though, their computer shut down, and when it rebooted and restarted, the wallpaper was different. The wallpaper was taken on ground level and was of some bricks covered in moss with mist curling above them. The user had no idea how that became the wallpaper since they didn't even have that picture saved on their computer, but they always wondered if maybe that view was the last thing this girl saw before she died. But even if that was true, how did that image end up on your laptop? Who is this girl? Where was this image that you found this girl? Like if you were searching for porn, where did you find this image? That is not porn. Finally, at number 1 is The Laugh. This one scared the shit out of me honestly. I would actually fear for my life if this happened to me, no joke. Shared by user KP Fet Style, she said her mum used to have a really old computer and she didn't have her own computer at the time, so when she stayed with her mum she would just use hers. And the computer was in their bedroom, so late at night she would always be up on her bullshit searching random shit like we all do at 2 AM. Now anyway, she assumed there was some virus on the computer since the speakers would always spew out weird voices or strange clips of dialogue that you couldn't understand. She brushed it off, but one night she was on Facebook when out of nowhere she heard a hysterical laugh. It wasn't her mum because she was fast asleep, so it was coming from the damn computer. The laugh was louder and longer than the other sounds she'd heard before, and it made her shit herself. She quickly started running virus scans but found nothing. As soon as the pop-up appeared that no viruses were found, out of the speakers came someone yelling "nice try," followed by some more hysterical laughing. She shut that computer down ASAP Rocky, and I hope to God she burnt it too.